Flags everywhere! Welcome back to Playing in Politics. Let's talk about this week in the news, shall we? Because it has been a week in the news. It has been an absolutely crazy week in the news, and we have a lot to talk about in today's video. If you've never seen my face before, hello, welcome to Playing in Politics, which is my politics and makeup podcast. My name's Anna. Hi, how you doing? But this is my podcast where I talk about politics and I do my makeup at the same time. It's like Belisarian, but without the murder. A lot of the time. So sometimes we do talk about people dying. Today's video, we're free from death until, well, in the main part of this video, but I did just want to touch on quite a serious note before we get into the main bulk of what we're going to talk about today, because obviously, if you guys haven't heard, there was a mass shooting in Minneapolis, in America, in a Catholic church yesterday, and obviously we send all of our prayers and condolences to the friends and family of those who died. I think it was 2 children died, unfortunately, and the shooter has apparently been identified as a anti-Trump and anti-Christian person, so take that what you will. However, today we have a lot of things to talk about, very varied video, so let's just get straight into this. Obviously, I'm wearing my Union flag, even though it's not accurate in terms of the actual like placement of the stripes and stuff, my Union flag t-shirt, because the first thing I wanted to talk about was flags. All the flags everywhere. Lefties having an absolute meltdown on social media. This has been, what a week it has been for patriots across this country. Obviously, we like to talk about the patriotic movement on this channel quite a lot, me being a very proud member of it. Again, very proud to wear this t-shirt whenever I get the opportunity, and I just felt like it was very appropriate for today's video. And yeah, obviously we see the rise of flags, the rise of patriotism across this country, and it is glorious to see. Obviously, the reasons why it's on the rise are very dark and disgusting and shouldn't be happening in this country, but the way that people are starting to come together against the flag being called racist, and we're going to talk about this a bit later, but so fighting against the fact that this flag has been deemed racist by lefties is just, it's a glorious sight to see. Now obviously there are several methods that are being used for this, not all of which I condone, but I'm going to put a few pictures on the screen, actually exclusive from Herefordshire, where basically there's been a zebra crossing that's been spray painted to look like the St George's Cross. Obviously you've probably seen the videos of the men on buildings like using a paint roller to do the St George's Cross, and you know, we just have all of these videos. Again, can't really endorse some of them because some of them could be classed as vandalism in some legal aspects, so we can't really say whether I support it or not, but in terms of why this is happening and what it represents for this country, here for that all day every day. And again, I think the rise of patriotism, and we're going to get onto this in a little bit as well, is so important because the way that it has increased over the past few weeks especially shows such a turn in the narrative, even on the mainstream media, and that's going to be a very important topic we're going to talk about. But yeah, I think the change that we're seeing now in terms of, you know, spending so many years calling the flag racist, and of course that's still happening, obviously with the rise of all the flags going up everywhere across the UK. Obviously the lefties are having an absolute meltdown, thinking this is terrible, all these like far right fascist, like this is the rise of fascism and all the wonderful words that we love to see popping up everywhere in regards to the people who just want to be proud of their country and, you know, want to rebel against these people who the establishment are just letting into the country, who have absolutely no pride or regard for the flag whatsoever, have no regard for the country, and most importantly have no regard for women and women's safety, and because they just regard them as even less than second-class citizens and come from countries where women don't have any rights and are still fighting for rights, and again are just silenced and used as objects essentially. As again, we all know the type of countries I'm talking about, we all know the type of people I'm talking about, even though the left really don't want to address this. But it is, again, it's a beautiful thing to see how so many people, like, this wouldn't have happened in 2020. I don't think if this kind of thing happened in 2020 2020. And obviously when, you know, all the George Floyd stuff happened, we saw some rise of patriotism and we saw some rise of people calling it out for what it was, which was just complete and utter rubbish. Obviously we know about the George Floyd situation, how that was covered up, and, you know, that whole situation of like we were being lied to, the fact this was an American thing and it just like came over to the UK still absolutely fascinates me. The fact that this was nothing to do with us, and yet the lefties in the UK were like, oh yeah, we have police brutality in the UK. No, we don't. No, we don't. I mean, we've seen some examples of that towards like more right-wing people recently at protests and things, and we've talked about that on the podcast before. But on the whole, and we've obviously seen the police be, you know, less than proper and less than, you know, all neat and tidy, that kind of thing. You know, we've seen that kind of thing happening, so we all know what's happening there. But again, in terms of just the level of like the lack of pushback that we got in 2020, really, I think a lot of us were maybe swinging more towards the left. Obviously not all of us were, and then when it came to like the vaccines and things. But yeah, in terms of kind of the racism aspect, I think that's when it kind of started, in terms of maybe the flag being called racist or whatever, or just the country as a whole being called racist, obviously with like the conversation around like colonialism and all that kind of thing, and then like the statue incidents and things like that, which still make me shudder to my core to think about what they were doing to those statues and stuff. And we obviously all remember what happened, and that was 5 years ago now, and then look where we are. You know, it has only got, in terms of the issues in this country, that's only got worse. But the rise up of people and people waking up, I think more importantly, has risen so exponentially, especially in the past sort of like this year. And again, it has been an absolutely glorious sight. And I think the flag thing, it all depends on where you live, obviously. If you've got a migrant hotel or something in there, I think it's more likely for people to be putting flags up and things. But even in like really small places, as I say, like Herefordshire, like the pictures I showed on the screen, you know, it's not just the big cities. Like all these people, there's more and more people who share our views and share our frustrations, and it is a glorious thing to see. The tide is turning, and the lefties can't really do anything about it. They will cry and they will whinge all they want, and you're always going to have the lefty crowd who cannot be convinced against their delusion, and you know, we're just going to have to deal with that. It is what it is. We can try and convert as many people as possible, but there's some people who just don't want to be converted, and that is what it is. But for those who are waking up and who are seeing the situation in this country and speaking up about it, especially on public platforms, again, there's a rise of that, and it's beautiful to see. One person who has spoken up, speaking about, you know, mainstream, Rylan Clark on ITV. I don't know if any of you guys have actually seen this clip, but I watched this on British Stand the other day, and it absolutely fascinated me, because I'm thinking, what is Rylan Clark doing in a thumbnail of a British Stand video? And the title was like, you know, he stands up against like the migrant hotels and things, and I'm thinking, this is Rylan Clark, gay icon, gay supposedly lefty icon, who has now spoken out against migrants. And I swear this was on This Morning. It looked like the This Morning set, so it would have been ITV, right? And again, I think this makes this even more interesting and even more exciting in a way. And as Dan said in his video, you know, this is ITV, and this is a mainstream person, this is a mainstream media channel, this is daytime TV. And when daytime TV starts to convert to more of our way of thinking and our way of speaking out about things, and when it comes to, you know, mainstream sort of icons like Rylan Clark, who, you know, would be seen as kind of a lefty icon, as I said, because the man is probably one of the most openly gay camp icons we have in TV, especially daytime TV, right? And again, I love to see that as well. That's another reason why I love to see this, because when people of that community can start speaking up, who again are more predominantly associated with being like really left-wing and would definitely not be considered as being on our side, that is the real indicator. And you know, obviously I've talked about, you know, my views on gay rights and the LGBTQ plus community and that kind of thing. You know, I'm a bit more lenient when it comes to maybe hearing them out on issues and things like that, but I definitely think that this is again, just such a massive step for this movement and for people in general waking up. And obviously he has faced like inundated with backlash on social media, to the point where he literally sent this tweet out and was like, you know, you can still like trans people but have the utmost respect for women. You can still, you know, essentially what he was saying was, you don't have to be in an, like, it was kind of anti-echo chamber. I think I'll put the tweet up on the screen if I can find it. And again, I was just like, this is what I've been saying. This is the kind of thing that I say a lot, especially on this channel, especially when it comes to like LGBTQ issues, as I've said before, because as much as, yeah, I agree with a lot of the conversations that we have, there's also a big part of me that's like, don't shove everybody into the same box, even though a lot of them put themselves in that box anyway, because that's what lefties are. They're a massive just echo chamber. They like to just put themselves into a box and go, yay, we're all friends here. No, you can't come in if you do not share our exact views, our exact ideology. You are not allowed in the box. Leave the box, go find your own. And then some people are like, I don't want a box. I have my views, but I don't want a label, I don't want a box, and that's fine. But that's like what my views are, especially when it comes to kind of more socially, you know, relevant topics. And what's even more interesting about what Rylan even said on this is that it wasn't even that groundbreaking. He was literally just basically calling out the fact that we're letting these people into our hotels undocumented and we don't know who they are, you know, and also, you know, we're giving them all this free stuff when there are loads of people in this country, like veterans and just people in general, who are really struggling in this country and are struggling to pay bills or even get on like the housing ladder. And yet, if you come from Dover, you immediately get all this free stuff, as I say. Which is just what we've been saying for years and years and years now. But again, the fact that this is coming from Rylan Clark, who again, daytime TV British icon, is so incredibly interesting and refreshing to see. And again, because this is ITV, obviously they're not quite as bad as the BBC, but you know, they're sort of close second with the BBC in terms of like promoting lefty ideas and all these things. And the fact that, again, he was on like what looked like This Morning because of the set in the clip, you know, it is just incredibly refreshing, and again, it just indicates the turning tables in terms of what they're going to allow on the mainstream. Now, obviously, I say that, but I don't think we can expect him making any more cameos in Doctor Who anytime soon on the BBC after what has, you know, been said by him now, which is fine. Absolutely fine, because I mean, I don't think I've ever talked about this. I've been a massive fan of Doctor Who like my entire life. There was a Eurovision kind of episode in the last season. Don't ask me why I'm watching the latest seasons of Doctor Who, okay? I'm torturing myself, I know. But he made the cameo in that. Same as Graham Norton, like obviously he made a cameo in it as well. But Rylan Clark was, I think, like basically like the host of this like alien Eurovision, which was crazy. But although I think he has actually been involved in Eurovision like actually in the past, so that's probably why. Yeah, as I say, I don't think he's gonna get, it will be interesting to see kind of what mainstream media opportunities he gets after all this, because we know what the mainstream media is like. And especially with a big icon like this, you know, if he gets cancelled in a big way, which he might, you know, end up getting done like by the lefties after this, you know, it'll be interesting to see who they kind of turn to if they think they can't use Rylan anymore because of things he might, you know, come out and say that are scandalous in their eyes. It's a very interesting thing when somebody's especially calling out how much money is being spent on these people because of all of the free stuff. And you know, again, we've talked about the kind of things that they find in the migrant hotel, you know, rooms and things like that in terms of drugs and weapons. And of course, we're giving them like free iPhones and things when they get to this country, so we're essentially giving them all the toolkit to commit crimes. We've talked about that in a previous episode. And again, when you get mainstream people calling this out, it is fascinating and very, very refreshing to see, and I welcome it with open arms. So moving on to the next topic, which gets a little bit darker but again relates to migrants, is, and I'm sure we've all seen the video, that girl in Dundee with the knife and the axe that was filmed by a migrant. The video is being filmed by a migrant. You can tell by the voice that's coming from behind the camera and also just what's being said in the video as well. But obviously she's branding this knife and she's saying that you have to watch it a few times to really understand what's being said, but essentially she's like, you bashed my sister, like you beat my sister, like she's 12, what, what are you doing? Like, get away from us, don't talk to us. And the migrant is like, yeah, but you've got a knife though, like, yeah, show the knife. Obviously he's filming her, trying to, you know, which has obviously now been used in evidence to charge this girl. The girl in the video who had the knife and the axe has now been charged formally, which is not surprising. This is Britain, this is the justice system that we have. You know, we have no idea what's happened to the actual migrant who was filming this, and it was allegedly beating up her sister. It's the girl that's been charged, and I think she's like 14 or something, and we have no idea, as I say, we have no idea where the migrant's gone. He's just disappeared. We have no, I mean, obviously we might find out in the next few days as this case, you know, rolls out. Obviously we can't really speculate at the moment, like we can't say whether or not he came from a hotel or anything, because we just don't know, and it would be wrong to be speculating about this case, especially because it's ongoing, so we're not gonna do that. We're gonna be good, aren't we? We're gonna obey the law. But yeah, the questions that are coming out from this video are just absolutely crazy, that in 2025 we have to be asking the question of, why is a 14-year-old girl brandishing a knife and an axe in Dundee? Like, why are we, like, how have we got here? Obviously, like, we know, I don't know why I'm talking while I'm doing eyeliner, but you know, we know why we've got to this point, but it's the fact that we know why, but it's the fact that it's got to this point. We're having to look around at this country and go, oh my god, this is the country we're living in. Like, this is the nation that we have. Obviously this wasn't England, this was Dundee, Scotland. It is disturbing, and the video, I'm sure, again, we're sure we've all seen it, is very disturbing. It's unsettling. It really is. And again, you have to watch it a few times to really understand what's being said, because there's a lot of shouting going on, and obviously being like quite a thick Scottish accent, you're trying to figure out exactly what they're saying. But once you actually get it and it settles in, you can't really settle after that. It is really an example of where we've got to in this country at the moment, and it's just honestly disturbing and frightening in a lot of ways. I'm going to do my eyeliner, then we're going to come back and talk about this more. There we go. If you couldn't already tell, my makeup's going to be kind of inspired by the Union flag, so... But yeah, just going back to that video, as I say, the questions about why young people have to feel like they're brandishing a knife. Obviously, we've heard about, you know, young boys carrying knives and things for quite a few years now. I remember doing a brief on it in university and designing posters just like around that issue for this charity we were doing a live brief with. I'm a graphic designer, if you guys didn't know. But when it comes to young girls, 14 years old, who is probably, obviously we don't really know the context of the video, but what I'm assuming has happened is the sister's been told about her sister getting beaten by this migrant, and then just grabbed whatever she could grab from it looked like sort of a council estate type sort of hill situation. There was quite a few like flats around, so it might have been that kind of area, and judging by what they were wearing as well, although they were young and a lot of people wear the same thing, but you know, just trying to like gauge what kind of context we can get from the video. And I'm guessing again she just grabbed what she could and then went and essentially went to defend her sister. And yeah, again, the fact that this guy was filming them as well, because obviously we know the kind of things these people get up to, again, is so disturbing to me. It's like, why was he filming them? Why was he filming these young girls? Why, you know, obviously the girl was saying like, you've just beaten my sister, a child basher, all these things, and why is that happening as well? Like, they're kids. These are kids. Like, this is what we mean when we say protect the kids in this country, because this shit should not be happening. It's disgusting. Like, how have we let the country get to this point? How is this happening in our country? Like, protect kids. That way they don't feel like they have to come out with a knife and an axe. Or, you know, just women and girls in general can feel way more safe in this country, because at the moment we don't. We really, really don't. Like, you might do, I guess, maybe if you're not in tune with exactly what's happening in this country, but there's no way to ignore it now. It's too widespread. And obviously lefties have like one narrative where they just believe that everyone who's calling this out is a racist, and the flag is then inherently racist, even though they're saying it's like, we're not afraid of the flag, we're just, you know, it's just because these people who are doing it, they aren't doing it for patriotism, they're doing it because they're racist and they hate anyone who's not them. And I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. But again, no matter how far this goes, you're always going to have at least a small amount of people who believe that. They're always going to have the little echo chamber cult thing. But again, the tide is turning in terms of, you know, people waking up to this, and unfortunately the more that this comes out, in a way, the better it is for the fight and getting the message across and being like, see, this is what we mean. We're not racist, we're just concerned about all the citizens in this country. You know, we just want to get rid of the illegal migrants who clearly don't respect the culture that we have here, coming from a culture that, again, just doesn't respect women. And that's all we want, is we want them deported. That's it. We just don't want them in this country, and they're staying for too long and they're causing too many issues, and a lot of the time they're coming over here specifically to cause issues because they're avoiding it in their country of origin. And on that note, let's talk about Nigel Farage, who is apparently going to save the UK and become the UK's answer to Donald Trump. Like, that's literally to, like, the ICE raids and stuff. Like, let's talk about this friggin' press conference that happened earlier this week for Reform, where it was Nigel and Zia Yusuf, who, by the way, I'm sure we can all agree, has a very slappable face. Every time, I mean, to be honest, now, like, whenever I see both of them now, like, regardless of who it is, like, whether it's Zia or Nigel, despite the fact I used to really like Nigel, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's become incredibly disappointed with the way this has all gone recently, especially when we've talked extensively on this channel about, like, what happened with Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, and the fact they've started their own movements now, which is incredible to see. But whenever I see either of them, as I say, I just all that just kind of comes flooding back to me, and I'm just like, get them off my screen. But because I do what I do, I've got to, you know, stay informed with these things, and also because I just want to stay informed about what lunacy they've come out with next. And this press conference was just, yeah, it's funny because there are still little bits that both of them will come out with where it's like, yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, that's what you were saying from the beginning, wasn't it? This is, you know, this is making sense. But then you have to remind yourself that this is Nigel Farage and Zia Yusuf, and they don't actually care about this issue, and, you know, they actually have much different views that just don't align with what they're trying to put across, and you just have to remind yourself of that, and then you're just immediately disappointed. This is the state we've got in this country when it comes to reform. You know, this time last year we were all, yay, reform's the one to win, we want reform in government. I mean, I never was. If you've been on this channel for any length of time, you know that I was never of that persuasion at all. In fact, you know, I'm going to Tory party conference this year because I'm still a Tory, mainly because of Rob Jenrick. Like, I still believe that he's where all our hope is at the moment. He's the guy who's got his head screwed on, like the only guy who's got his head screwed on in the Conservative Party at the moment. But apart from that, like, if I was to choose any other alternative, it would be Advance UK, so there you go. But yeah, as I say, this press conference, first of all, what on earth is Restoring Justice, like Operation Restore Justice, which is the name of this campaign, I guess. Whoever is their friggin' PR marketing team who came up with that and went, you know what, that rolls off the tongue. They need sacking immediately. Who approved this? I was looking at it on that stupid podium and I was just there like, who approved this? Who said, yeah, that's catchy, that will work? Like, it is the lamest name for a policy I have ever seen in my life. And there was some pretty, you know, crazy things. What is it, like Kemi's Renew 2025 plan or whatever the fuck, like, but like Operation Restore Justice, like, seriously, that is it's just stupid. Like, this isn't World War II, okay? This is not, and even in World War II we had a lot more catchy names and names that stood for our operations. I swear to God, ChatGPT has killed everything. They probably got that off friggin' like ChatGPT. They probably went to ChatGPT and was like, give us a name for this policy. And because ChatGPT is like woke as hell, it's probably gone, let's be conscious of, you know, the situations that these people have come from, and let's not be racist. But anyway, here's a name for a thing. Like, I can imagine that happening because of how terrible this was. But obviously he was standing up there and, yeah, essentially was like, I'm gonna be your answer to Donald Trump because blah-de-blah, all these things have failed, previous government failed, Tories, previous government failed on this, we're gonna be the ones to do it, we're the only ones who've ever had a consistent policy, blah-de-blah. He did all the normal rhetoric, right? And then he starts going into what he's exactly is going to do, and he starts ranting and everyone's going, woo! Of course they are, because they're little Nigel Farage puppets, and as we've talked about on this channel, they have to be puppets in order to actually stay in the party, otherwise you get ousted. And again, we've talked about that on the channel before. But essentially, he was like, I'm gonna rewrite the world. I'm gonna rewrite all the UK laws. I'm gonna abolish any single law that comes in my way is going to go. And obviously that was getting massive applause from everybody, like, yay, Nigel, rewrite the entire book, like, please. And you know, he was saying about all of these things. He blamed Blair for a lot of it, and I mean, obviously we can blame Blair for a lot of things. We can blame good old, not that good old Tony Blair for a lot of things in this country that went wrong, right? And yeah, okay, I agree with him that this whole multicultural thing started with Tony Blair. But at the same time, when he's on about even rewriting laws that go back all the way to the 1950s, like literally he was ranting so much. He was like, any law that comes in my way is gonna get abolished or rewritten. So these lawyers have absolutely no leg to stand on. And I'm going, okay, so you're changing the careers of basically every like human rights lawyer because you're gonna change every law possible. Okay, great. I mean, in a way, yay, but it was just the way he was coming across. I was like, okay, Nigel, okay. He's getting, and I think this is the thing overall, is that he's getting a very big for his boots. He really thinks that he's still got a chance at actually being in government, despite what's actually happened. And obviously he's still got his cronies, and some of them live in my comment section, as they have done every time I've talked about Reform UK. There's always people like, yeah, but Nigel, like, vote Nigel, reform is the only way forward. And I'm like, there's me still a Tory, like, guys, who's never really liked Reform UK, even back when Tice was leader. And I've talked about that again since the genesis of my channel. I've never really trusted them. So again, when I talked about when everything went down with all the downfall, and I was like, haha, called it. I'm still like that. I'm sorry. Like, well, I'm not sorry. I'm not apologising for being right. But you know, it was just, again, it was the way he was coming across, that he was just like this dictator almost, and was like, I'm gonna do this, and it's like, you're not Trump. You are not Trump. Calm your boots. Like, it's just, again, it's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. It really is. But when it came to the media questions, I mean, again, I'm sure we've all seen the clips. Can we just acknowledge for a second how stupid some of those, like, well, basically all of the media questions were? You had at least two people. I mean, I switched off after a while because I was like, this is turning boring and all samey at this point, because again, it was the mainstream media, which is a point we're going to bring up in a minute. But the fact that there was at least two of them that were like, don't you understand that, like, some of these people in their origin countries could be facing arrest or torture? And it's like, yeah, and if they're criminals in their own country, then they shouldn't be coming to our country. Point blank, period. Like, there is no... What is there to not understand about that? Like, seriously, I don't understand how people are still getting confused about this. Like, the mainstream media, of course, will be the mainstream media, but it's the fact that we had more than one person basically asking the exact same question of, like, you've got to be considerate about these people because they're human beings. And it's like, yeah, sure, but they're also criminals. If they're facing torture in their own country, or execution, or arrest, or jail time, or whatever, then let them serve that, because there's going to be a reason. There's going to be a reason, unless, as I said, unless it's like a political refugee from Iran, for instance, who are running away from the modesty police, you know, like that, or like the morality police, right? Like, unless it's that kind of situation, like that's how we have Bayatusi now in this country, because his mom was a political refugee because she got in trouble with the morality police, ran into the British MC, and now he's, you know, and then he came with her. Like, that's how, you know, situations like that, sure. And it was an interesting point actually that Nigel made, which does need to be talked about, is that, yeah, this narrative that the left like to, you know, hark on about the fact that, oh, we're closing our country off completely and we just want to be, again, it's like the racist thing of, we don't want to let anybody in this country who's not white, and we're against migrants and all these things. And it's like, okay, let's all cast our minds back a second, and I know I've talked about this on the channel before, let's all cast our minds back a second to 2020, when we were letting a bunch of migrants from Hong Kong back into this country, well, into this country, if they needed to get away because the CCP had reoccupied Hong Kong. Do you remember that? Do we all remember this? Or Afghanistan, when Joe Biden made the stupid decision of pulling US troops out and the Taliban went, oh thanks, yeah, here we go. Like, and then we let a bunch of people in from Afghanistan, like actual refugees, people who actually needed the help because they wanted to get out of the country because they recognised that the leadership that was about to come back into power or is in power didn't have their best interests in mind and in fact wanted to kill them. Then we let people in. We have never been a closed off country, and this is what Nigel was saying, and to be honest, I did actually very much agree with him when he said that. To give him some credit, it is a point that does need to be talked about, especially to, as I say, defeat the lefty narrative of we are a closed off country. We have never ever been a closed off country. We have always been a very generous country to those who actually needed their help and actually wanted to come over here and actually, you know, start a new life and be some benefit to this country. We have always been open to that, and that's why it frustrates me so much when the lefties are all like, we're, you know, trying to say it's because of we're racist, because it's not. It is just not. Like, fundamentally, plot that period, it is just not. That is not the case at all. But again, you know, when it comes to this press conference, it's just interesting to see the mainstream media, as I say, just go with the exact same narrative of racism basically and trying to claim that the UK is trying to be a closed off country, and it's like, no, we never were. We want to be a closed off country to the illegal migrants who just want to come to sponge off the state because we've been giving them all this free stuff. That's what we want to get rid of. We don't want to get rid of the actual people who needed the help or people who've come here legally, even though, you know, we've had a conversation about the fact there's a bit too much legal migration as well. But regardless, those who actually want to come and, you know, be a benefit to the country and start a new life, because we are a great country, by all means do that. You know, if you actually want to come and be a part of the UK, then come be a part of the UK. Fine. Absolutely brilliant. There are ways to do it. There are ways to go about it. There are ways to do it. And that is what it is. And that has always been the case and will always be the case. So there we go. And of course, Zia Yusuf was trying to chime in with his points, basically repeating what Nigel was saying, and it was just like, shut up Zia, nobody wants you here. Like, essentially that's what I was thinking. I was just like, shut up mate, nobody cares. But again, if there are people going to this country who in their countries of origin are gonna get arrested or tortured or whatever because they've done something wrong, like the heinous crimes that a lot of them are doing in this country, then stay in your country and get your punishment. Do not come here, which they should not be coming here, but they are coming here, and that's why we have the mess that we are in currently. It is what it is. Also want to mention the fact that Reform have always tried to be basically champions of new media, and yet there were 0 new media outlets at this press conference. 0, null, and there's a whole conversation that we've been having on like the new media space about new media people getting press passes to these things because it is a struggle. So there's that as well. And also Nigel I think was actually reminded at that press conference, but needs to be constantly reminded of the fact that he literally came out and said that he was for mass migration. So yeah, just something to think about. Moving on. And finally, as I get to the end of my makeup pretty much, let's talk about something positive, shall we? For the people who catch up with pop culture recently, I'm sure that we've all seen that Miss Taylor Swift has got engaged, and you know, I am so happy for her. Obviously her and is Selena Gomez engaged? I feel like is she engaged to Benny Blanco? I'm not even sure. I saw a tweet that kind of suggested that they were both engaged like this year, same year. But the fact that she has finally broken out of the whole forever girlfriend pandemic and like situation, I am genuinely so happy for her. You know, I don't really talk about pop culture that much on my channel because it's not really like go over to Brett Cooper for that kind of thing if you want the combination of pop culture and, I mean, well, maybe I could talk about pop culture and, you know, but this is politics. It's playing in politics, not playing in pop culture, so I don't know. Again, Brett Cooper's your mix of that. Yeah, again, I'm so incredibly happy for her. That ring is stunning. Like, I'm not a gold person personally, but oh my god, that suits her to a T. Like, again, I'm so happy. Obviously, she's found her love story, you know, and she just said yes, you know. I don't know. That was a very lame song reference there for those who understand, but you know, again, I am so happy for her. You know, this guy Travis Kelce, good on him. And you know, I've seen a lot of discourse on the internet basically about like, you know, this is a real man who's not afraid to be vulnerable and show that he loves somebody and like be open and stuff. And then actually, because also the for those who are aware, I mean I wasn't even aware, I've just seen this on the internet, the that sort of forest like garden thing that they got engaged in was the same like little garden that she used for when she came out with the Lover album back in like, what was that, 2018 I think it was, and we're still waiting for Taylor's version of that, which I think now is going to be so beautiful. I know we're all waiting for Reputation, but you know, that, as I say, yeah, that garden she used for the promo photo shoot for Lover, like one of the promo photo shoots for the Lover album, which I just think is gorgeous. And again, if you wanted to, we would. It's so beautiful. I am genuinely so happy for her, like, and again, it's like, it's Taylor Swift, why do I care? But it's one, because obviously she had this reputation, Taylor's version, about being like the girl who was constantly like making songs about her ex-boyfriends, and she was, you know, and she even like Shake It Off, the song even says like, you know, like it was about like all the rumours that went around about her. I'm sure if you listen to Taylor Swift at all, you probably understand about like goes to on too many dates but can't make them stay, that kind of thing. But now obviously, and yeah, obviously that was kind of a reputation of just dating a bunch of people, getting into all these like crazy situations, and she was always having these breakups and she could never really stay in a relationship properly. And then obviously she was with that Joe guy for like 6 years and we all thought, is this it? But 6 years go by and the guy does fuck all, and we're thinking, what is happening? And then obviously they break up. She dates Matty Healy for like 2 weeks, which am I wrong in thinking the song Fortnite is about Matty Healy? Anyway, from the 1975. I don't know if we missed that, but you know, she was with him for like 2 weeks after the breakup, and then obviously she meets Travis Kelce, and yeah, now she's here. And again, I could not be more happy for her. This is fantastic. I have decided I'm going to do the rest of my makeup off camera. I'm going to come back with my concluding thoughts, but yeah, happy engagement, Taylor. This is a positive thing to be happening for society and celeb culture in 2025, and the world is healing. The world is healing. I will come back in a minute. God, I have missed how much I love blue lipstick. I have not worn this in ages. Plus I got some of these glittery lip glosses from Catrice, because Primark sold Catrice now, which is like an American, I think, brand, which is crazy. Also they have Essence again, which for those of you who missed that when Wilco's went away, Primark, big Primark. Anyway, here are my concluding thoughts. Again, I just want to know what all of you guys think in the comments about everything that we've talked about today. As always, it's the whole point of this channel to start the discussions in the comments section. The tide is turning. The tide is turning, but not with Nigel Farage. He is not the answer. At least, so that's what we believe on this channel. At least I do. So yeah, also again, Nigel, sack your marketing team. That is a terrible name for a campaign, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, congratulations to Taylor Swift on your engagement. Congratulations, girl, you are proving society wrong. This is a glorious thing that we love to see. Again, when it comes to the girl in Dundee, we wish that justice is served in that way, in that she doesn't go to jail or anything, or young offenders or whatever, because obviously she's only like 14, and this migrant is caught and is questioned and we find out the answers, because we need to know. We still don't really know what's going on there. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do hit subscribe if you like this video and you want to see more of me. I'm back every single week, often either on Wednesdays or Thursdays is when I tend to upload my sort of weekly summary of the podcast, and sometimes I do little shorts on my YouTube shorts if there's a little bit of like breaking news that I want to talk about just quickly before the podcast or anything. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on that. Also, in terms of the flags, I wanted to mention this during the first segment of this podcast, but if you have any pictures of around your local area in terms of flags being put up, or if you've put a flag up or anything like that, please do send me some pictures. My email for the podcast is always in the description, so send them through there. And next week we could probably do like a bit of like a Patriot of the Week segment where we share your guys' pictures, and you know, make sure to tag like where they are, if you want to, of course. You know, don't want to dox yourself necessarily, but if you want to share exactly where you are in the UK, leave that in your email style as well, along with the pictures, and we'll do a little bit of a segment because yeah, we really need to be spreading the word of how incredible this is to see. The flag is not racist, we are not racist, we just want to protect our country and our citizens, and screw the lefties who think otherwise. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave this a like as well because it always really helps me out with the algorithm, and I will see you guys in next week's video. If at any point you are curious, by the way, about the makeup side of things, I always leave everything I use in the description. It's a big long list of the stuff that I've used, especially if you want to find out the blue lipstick I used and the lip gloss and stuff, so leave it in the description, but I do, and I will see you guys in next week's video.